welcome to finally Game Music, or Äntligen Spelmusik, and this is a bit of a historical step for this podcast. I usually take the beginning of this podcast in Swedish, and well, all the podcast is usually in Swedish, but for today I will take this in English and hopefully to continue this in the near future. Today we are at the 123rd episode of this podcast, and this time I have with me Michal, to do an interview around the game music he worked for Last Oasis. So let me welcome you into the warmth and let's listen to that interview. And hello everybody, now we're back into the real interview here. We have done the intro and everything, and I've explained to everybody that we are going to have an English interview for the first time in the podcast's history. And together with me this week I have Michal Korniewicz. Hello!
Hello, it's great to be here.
It's good to have you here. It's actually very exciting. First of all, we're going to talk about a pretty interesting soundtrack, but also we're going to go a little bit deeper on what you did in this game as well. Because I've been talking to you before. We actually met each other online through the Nordic Game Conference.
That's
when they
correct.
had this all Discord based conference, which was pretty interesting, to be honest.
It was.
But we got to know each other a little bit over there, and you talked a little bit about this and that, but we didn't go too deep on who you are and so on, and I think we're going to get to know you a bit much better for this episode. Are you nervous?
Not really. I mean, not my first interview. I'm really glad we've met first at the Nordic, and now that we could make this happen.
Mm-hmm. So usually when it comes to these type of interviews, everybody else who's listening to my podcast already know this, but I'm doing a little bit of research on the people that comes in, and I usually don't let the composers know, and I did the same to you.
Yeah. And this is actually the first time that I encountered this. So I come to the interview, and you're really prepared. I mean, we'll see how much, but yeah, I'm a bit scared what you might have dig up.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting though. It's not too much, I would say, because usually when I search, I usually use a lot of different medias to search for, using Google to just search for interviews and so on. But it's not too much specifically. I gathered a lot of other information and just added the puzzle pieces together for different kind of things. And
Okay.
I find it fascinating. But here we go. So, Michal Korniewicz, born 27th of October 1988. At the age of 17, he started composing music. And Michal seems to be self-taught when it comes to the music, as he studied architecture and urbanism between 2007 and 2013. But ever since 2011, he has been composing professionally as a freelancer composer and sound designer. My guess is that the freelancer part ended up with what we could see today as Cadillac loops. What I could find early is that Michal worked a lot with remixes of other people's work before starting to work with other clients, dating remixes back to 2013-2014 on SoundCloud. At Cadillac Loop's homepage, we can see 16 selected works where we can see various games from different platforms and some movie promos. The first work we could see is from the virtual world Sign Space, where Michal worked as the co-sound designer, and the game was released 2016. We can also see that he did some audio rescore for the Fallout 4 trailer in 2015 and multiple mobile games. And just to name a few, we had Tap Hero that was released in 2016, Assassins and Pirates from the same year, and then Blocky Farms from 2017. Michal also worked with both music and sound design for these games, and also for Pure Farming 2008 that released 2018, and from 2019 till the present time he has been working on for a Polish studio named Donkey Crew, where he works on their nomadic survival MMO game called Last Oasis. And that's where we are today. But I'm super interesting. Are you self-taught when it comes to the music part?
Really, first of all, really nicely put, puzzles together. A bit of incorrect information here and there, but just slightly. Overall, really good work. Answering your question, yes, I'm 100% self-taught, and it's actually, my beginnings with music are the story that I really like, because when I was in the first class of high school, so we were 15 there, 15, 16 years old, something like that, I had a dream that I play guitar, and I woke up really energized, really happy about it, because this was a really happy dream. I played, everybody liked it, and I had a little bit of money, I believe, counting what set euro as a currency, so it was, 40 euros, something like that. So I went to the shop and bought my first guitar, and that's how I started playing. And I picked it up at a late age, so I didn't thought about going to school, going to music school to try. I just picked it up as a harmless hobby, so to speak. And for a long time it stayed like that. I think but that was also a pinnacle of why I've became a composer. And to be honest, that was my laziness. Like, I learned first 3 chords, and all I wanted to do is play around with it and play something, that comes to my head. And that was because when after school, after training, because I was training basketball, I played in the national team, so it ate up a lot of my time. So whenever I picked the guitar, it was time for a break, time for me. I didn't feel like learning songs of
you didn't want to dedicate
band.
Yourself that night where you wanted to relax.
Not that much dedicating, but I wanted to play around and play guitar, but I didn't want to spend time of tediously practicing scales or even learning other songs. Like, I was the one who really sucked at playing music at the campfire late at night, because people knew all the songs, how to play them on the guitar, and I didn't bother learning them. I always wanted to create something new.
So something new, original by yourself, just listening to what you're basically practicing then.
Yeah, that's kind of like that. I mean, obviously, listening to other people's work and then trying to emulate and change it, it's a huge part of growth. And later, when I became more serious about my craft and more serious about, and I realized that, this is the career I want to choose and become a composer, I obviously put much more work than at the beginning into it. But yeah, the beginnings were that. And I never, I've been in the, various master classes with other composers, or recently I've been a part of the vocal workshops by very talented singer Karolina Skrzyńska. Just disclaimer, I'm not singing, I'm just, they're curious how people use their voice and how I can compose better melodies and harmonies for the vocalists. So I put in the time, but it started just as a harmless hobby, and I never picked up a proper musical education, so to speak.
Okay. So when it comes to the interest of music, was it just the dream that kind of kicked it off, or did you have any favorite band that kind of inspired you to start, for example, that you actually picked up a guitar first?
I think the first conscious album that I liked, that I remember, that wasn't just the song I like on the radio, but I kind of started, thinking more deeply about music, I would say. I'm not sure if it was Blood Sugar Sex Magic by Red Hot Chili Peppers, and this is something that that started, that I liked. Immediately after and it was around the time that I picked the guitar, I really got into the blues music. So that went along nicely, and actually for a long time before maybe not that long, but before I picked any other instrument or even thought about composing, I was actually a blues guitarist, and I played here and there. So yeah, that was the path.
Yeah, nice. So when you come back to the information that are collected here, what else was not entirely correct here that we can point out?
Yeah, let's go from the end. So I'm currently wrapped up my work with the Donkey Crew.
Yeah.
So I'm back. I'm actually taking a breather right now. Back to freelancing on a couple of smaller projects. And first time since I transitioned myself to being a full-time audio professional, I'm taking a little bit of time off, because this can be a really draining career path, and you have to put in more than those 8 hours a day to keep progressing. There's a lot of people trying to make it happen, trying to compose music for games, and it's a crowded room, and I didn't realize how much I needed a break and a breather. So that's in the place where I'm right now.
Okay. So I guess that before, when you worked, because you never worked in-house before Donkey Crew then?
I did. I worked on the Pure Farming 2018 that you mentioned. I worked for Techland. Actually worked for the company called Ice Flames that was a subcontractor for Techland doing the Pure Farming. But I worked that game. I did some music for that game, but mostly majority of my time it was a sound designer. So I worked in Warsaw as an in-house sound designer / composer, but it wasn't that much music composed for it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, how much music do you usually have for a farming game?
Yeah. I mean, that was actually, it's interesting thing, because we had most of the music was the main menu stuff and all that. Then we had some music composed for the loading screens for different countries. Then we had music composed that you will hear, the diegetic music that will come just from the random farmhouse that you could hear coming from there. But then we had that solution that in all the vehicles you have a radio, and you as a player have ability to drop your own playlist into the folder of the game. And we had a bunch, I believe 6 or 7 tunes written, so that folder is not empty at the start, so you have something to get going. You have that. Either you could just fire up an internet radio, so that kind of music handles itself from that point on. So that wasn't a huge soundtrack, but that was something for Kickstarter.
Something to exist for everybody who isn't like a tech guy.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking about I know that when it comes to simulators, I know that German people are ecstatic for simulation games, because it's insane how much they like them. And I'm just thinking about the generic people who are into this type of games. They might not be that technical aspect, because they have a pretty specific interest in like farming and flying airplanes and building stuff or something like that. So they might not be that technical to understand, like, you can drag your own songs into this folder and then everything just works.
That's true. We tried to, user interface wise, we tried to make it as easy as possible, but obviously. Don't have to be that.
But it's always nice. I mean, you might have just done a quick guide people easily can follow as well. So.
And that's the interest. I know that your podcast is with composers and about composers, and I'm sorry, but I will sometimes lean on to the sound design side a little bit, just because I handle both, and both are my profession and my love. And this was really interesting about that project, that those people, those gamers that are fans of simulators, they're really picky about details. And it goes from the fact that you have to model 3D machines from the actual blueprints from the companies, till the fact that I had to travel around the country and record the specific machines and specific engines, because those people will hear that this is not that tractor, this is not that harvester, that doesn't sound like it in there. So that took me a lot of interesting places around Poland, just running around. Either there was just cars or tractors or big harvesters or other agricultural equipment.
Do you have any specific favorite when you traveled around?
My favorite actually would be when I recorded the sheep herd, and that was in Bielice. It's a little village at the very border of Poland and Czech Republic, where the road ends. There's just mountains up ahead, and I found out there's a guy with a small hotel, so to speak, so we can stay with him. So I I grabbed my family, we traveled there. It's a beautiful day, sunny, almost no winds, perfect for recording. So I go out and ask where the sheep are, so I could record them. And he's like, "Oh, let's take a walk." We walk onto the road. We look at that long valley, and he says, "Well, around midday, my neighbor said they were on that hill, and it's 3 p.m. And he said maybe they went uphill, or you have to look." So I spent next 2 days looking for the herd, and he said like those are free sheep and happy sheep. They come back every week or so. So that was, an interesting,
And when you came along, it was chasing sheep.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of funny moments working on the game.
I was thinking about the studio. I was like, "Are you done with those sheep cells yet?" I'm like, "I'm still chasing them."
Yeah.
I'm trying to find.
It's good that I didn't think it was. I mean, just because it's a nice place, so I went for the whole weekend with my family and not just for the 1 day quick recording job. Otherwise, I would be in trouble.
Yeah, have to travel by bike with the equipment and everything. And then when you meet the sheep, just do something, scream.
Yeah. Oh,
then you slowly walk away, don't say anything.
Thankfully, those were really talkative, and I have really nice recordings. But that exact thing happened to me with a cow herd. Like, I was, whoa, that's a big cow herd, nice. And they all come up, stand, and look at me in complete silence, and nothing. Nothing, really.
What can I do to make you talk?
Yeah,
talk.
Exactly. No.
But that was a nice, interesting story there for pure farming. So if we're heading a little bit more back then, what else could you add here? I named the Tap Hero, Assassins and Pirates, and Blocky Farm.
Oh yeah, I mean those two, Tap Hero and Blocky Farm, those are the mobile games that probably gathered most players. They both are well over 1 million of players. And both Tap Hero is a great, really tiny, really small game. And it's a single track composed to it. And I remember I talked the developer out of doing it in chiptune because it's a pixel art graphic style. So I talked him out. So we left some synthesizers that kind of bring memories of chiptune, but there's because it's the knight fighting against fantasy creatures of evil, so it's a little bit of epicness symphonic wise into it. But then it was nice combining those with synthesizers. I felt like that sit really nicely. And and the Blocky Farm, it's on the kind of other side of the spectrum, because it's a game made by two lovely developers, and they that was a project that was meant to be, I think, 3 months or something like that, and it took them 2 years because they just keep building and building on it. And I'm really happy that game was successful. And Assassins vs Pirates, the third title, it's actually the first title on Steam. It's not a mobile game; it's a PC game. It's a coach brawler, kind of think Brawlhalla. It's basically it's basically in that in the type
2D platformer battle.
Yeah, exactly, and 2 versus 2, so 4 players, really similar to Brawlhalla in the genre sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and and it was really interesting project because the developers, the Deadbeat Studios, which are all right now my really good friends, reached out to me to compose the music. They kind of tried other composers before that, and I asked, sure, I can do it. And this was, kind of a Pirate of the Caribbean's vibes. And since I'm a guitarist, I thought that I'll play live instruments for it, and it will sound really good. And they say, well, you have 11 days for composing the soundtrack and doing the sound design. So within 11 days, I did, I think, 25 minutes of music and about 50 to 60 actions for sound design. So this was a crazy stretch. But I think that was the moment I kind of put my foot in the door, because that was the first time I had a game on Steam with my soundtrack, and then they would showcase this game on all the indie arenas and game dev events, so I would go with them to those events, and then it's much easier to talk that, hey, I'm a composer, and actually you can listen to my work because it's free, free booths from here. So that's cool. Yeah, it gives you some credibility. So yeah, that was really nice project, and also first time that I've been doing adaptive music, not just linear loop that you kick in, and there's a little bit of nothing really complex, but still there's an adaptive element to it.
Yeah, I know myself. I've been I'm not a composer, but I've been working a little bit together with composers, doing more of a dynamic kind of tracking or adaptive.
Yeah.
From your type of part, because you're the professional one here of us, what would you say is the biggest difference when it comes to creating tracks between having a linear type of soundtrack rather than having a more dynamic?
What's the biggest difference? There's a lot different, and I think the one I wouldn't say it's the biggest difference, but one important thing that we have to remember that it's not just the difference between linear and adaptive, but adaptive systems between each other, like the way that you logically design and write the code for or do the setup in WISE or whatever other middleware you might be using. This influences the way you would be composing, and the other way around, that the way you feel that you're composing for the certain game or certain genre, and you want to preserve long memorable melodies, or you want to have a really quick turnarounds in music. It influences how you will write the system. So those are two things that you can just break apart, and this is something I feel that we understand it as an industry now much better than a few years ago, but we still have a way to go. So we know that when the composers, the people hire a composer, or a composer comes and wants to be hired, that this is something that you have to do it together. You have to be able to not necessarily code it all yourself, because if you're really bad at technical part and really good at composing part, nobody's gonna hold it against you. Like for example, Gareth Cocker from the Ori and the Blind Forest. The music there is adaptive, but all Gareth does is throwing files into the folders. But he knows, like, he explains and he writes and he knows how the system will work, and this is something you have to be mindful as a composer, because otherwise there will be crash, because you can imagine things and you can put them in your program, in your DAW, and it will work great. Once thrown into the system, into the game, that there will be trouble if you haven't thought this through.
Yeah. I kind of know that part from personal experience. It's always interesting when it comes to those parts. So just a quick, so we can leave the adaptive and things. Which one do you prefer the most? Do you prefer to have more linear, or do you like the more adaptive?
I love adaptive. I mean, this is something that that I really feel like is my strong suit, because I also feel very good at the technical part and just implementing stuff. But this is, this just allows you to do so much more, and even a mediocre piece of music, if it's implemented correctly and behaves correctly and it's thought out, will serve much better than a genius piece that doesn't go with the flow of the game. I really feel that way, and it goes to both sound design and composing. You can't just have great assets and throw them in the game and expect that everything's gonna work. It's all about how you implement them, what game conditions, how they are gonna affect both the sound and the music that is being played.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one as well. No, it's super interesting when it comes to this part. And as you said, as you're pointing out, just taking a lot of good assets and just putting them into doesn't mean it's going to be really, really great. I mean, you can do that with food. You can't put two food that you like and then expect them to be freaking amazing. Right. No, it's gonna be crap.
Right. Well, sometimes it works, sometimes not so much.
But I'm talking out of experience as well there. I tried it.
Oh yeah. I love cooking too, so yeah. Happened to me before.
I think a lot of people know what we're talking about when we're talking about food.
Oh yeah. Let's keep food analogy rolling.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're just heading back yet again, you did some audio rescores. Could you go a little bit deeper on that?
Yes,
what's that all about?
That's because that's actually the thing that landed me my first job in game development. As you said that from 2011 I was doing music professionally. I wouldn't call it that. I mean, in 2011 I had my first job as a composer. I mean, for my first gig that I did for the short film of students, and this was really cool. But looking back, that was crazy wrong process-wise. So we were sitting in the studio. Me and the beatboxer I invited for that, and I've seen two scenes from that movie, and the other 3 scenes or 4, there were directors sitting beside us and just explaining what it will be, and we were coming up. It was like an improvisation in the studio, basically.
Okay.
So a crazy thing, but that started that small step by step, and then was another film for the students, and that was some kind of advertisement, and then that was more and more of side income and something I really enjoyed. And I'm a huge Fallout fan. I really like both game from the sense of how it's done and how good of a game it is, but I'm also a sucker for that post-apocalyptic genre and feeling. Like if I had to choose one emotionally one thing, either it's science fiction or fantasy, I would go always for the post-apo, and that one in Fallout, I just love it. And the New Vegas, Fallout New Vegas is one of the my top games I ever played. I think I never soaked into the game world so much as during the New Vegas. So when the Fallout 4 trailer came up, and I didn't really knew at that point that Obsidian wouldn't be involved, and it would be a different kind of game, still good but different. I was really excited, and within 24 hours since that trailer came up, I just wrote because I felt that music was okay, was in the felt like the Fallout, but it was missing something for me personally. So I picked up guitar. I love to play. I've got a 12-string guitar that I love to play with slide on. So it got that gritty, bluesy feeling that I felt will fit nicely into that setting, and just recorded it, as I said, within 24 hours. I posted online in the indie game developers group on Facebook or similar group. I'm not sure about the name anymore. And a guy from Australia, the audio developer from Australia, approached me and asked if I want to compose music for his game, and that was my very first gig.
That's really cool.
Yeah, the game it was never finished, never saw broad light. So everything I wrote to it, it's still in the cupboard, and nobody heard it besides us. But that was a good start. Like, this was okay. Maybe I can do it. Maybe this could be my career.
That was at least a step into the industry in some way, at least. Yeah, exactly. Even if it wasn't professionally directly and had a release game and everything.
But that gave me confidence that this is possible. That I just got a gig in the game development.
Because I kind of find it interesting. Usually, either people or composers or artists are really good posting a lot of content and original music to their SoundClouds, YouTubes, and stuff like that, and then studios hear them and it's like, oh yeah, this guy is amazing. He does all this crazy shit. Or I've seen people doing their own thing, like you did here with rescoring a trailer and adding more feeling to it. Like you said, that something was missing, and then they get traction towards that. So either you're kind of shotgunning stuff, you're basically throwing out a lot of different songs here and there, or you're doing something that the masses kind of follows. In this case, Fallout 4. There's a lot of people eager to see this game, and everybody's excited for the trailer. And if you just throw in your thing, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is the trailer," and then you're like, "No, it's not the trailer. It's just a trailer I put my music on."
Yeah, I had people ask me, "Oh, you're the guy who did the music for the..." No, that's just a risk. But that's a golden piece of, if I don't know if beginning composers listen to your podcast, or people who might want to become composers. This is or even not just composers, anything you do in the music industry, you have to put yourself out there. It's not that, and it's not enough to make a great sounding music, put it on SoundCloud and wait for the phone calls to start ringing. The more you do, and this is for me and for a lot of people I talk to, this is kind of a part of a job we don't like. That you have to be present on social media, you have to post, you have to create content, you have to think what's gonna happen after you finished writing the music. Do I want to package it as do I want to put it on Spotify? Do I want to put it in Bandcamp? Maybe I want to write to people around radio stations to get some interviews, to get something going. And this is something that it's a day job. It's boring. It's not fun for the most part. I mean, social interactions sometimes are really nice on social media, but otherwise it's just a hard job that you as a composer leading your dream job, so to speak, because I can't imagine really anyone becoming a composer and going through all that shit. Can I say shit? Or through all that stuff because when he or she doesn't like it. So yeah, it's something that you have to embrace and you have to spend your time and energy on, because that leads to really good things, but you have to just push through it.
Yeah, no, it is a really hard kind of discipline to get into. There's a lot of people going out there, and people are really, really talented. Yeah, but there's a lot of talented people out there.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the same. Now I would say that getting in is not that hard at all, because like the vast majority of people are doing really simple mistakes, trying and getting frustrated why they're not getting first gigs and why they are not getting in. But but this is kind of a common knowledge that it's hard getting in. I would say that it gets harder later. I mean, because getting in, landing 1, 2, 3 gigs here and there, which are probably underpaid at the very beginning, because you don't want to ask too much because you're just building portfolio, they don't really catapult you to the next level forward. It's a good step, but it's not like I feel like many people think that you started in the game development, whether it's composer, it's kind of an extreme version of it, but that you just started, you got your first gig, and boom, you're home. You're just gonna sit back, relax, and money and better projects are gonna start pouring in, and it's not that way at all. There's a constant push and constant fighting for it. Fighting, maybe it's not the best word, but you have to put in the energy and care about it throughout your career. Yeah. It's not like you go get over some magical threshold and then it's all good.
Yeah. People start waving their business cards, like, "Hey, I did this soundtrack." Everybody else is throwing money back at them.
Yeah, even if because it happens sometimes after certain releases. If you release a really well-known game that went really well, this is exactly what will happen to you. But this will die out eventually. And if you want to capitalize on that moment and get another great game that will push you back into the same category, then you will be down either way.
Yeah. So the last question before we dive into today's soundtrack, which we're going to talk about. We already talked about a little bit here, you generally and everything, but we kind of want to see here the freelancing thing. Cadillac Loops.
Oh,
is it the freelancer name?
Yes, and this is actually before I started a career as in game development or even in media. Cadillac Loops was a one-man band project, kind of when the other band I played in, we went separate ways, and I felt confident at that point, and I wanted to try playing all by myself with the loop station, creating live loops of the instruments, stuff like that, and I named it Cadillac Loops. Then it went to, and this shows me really my passion for adaptive music, because I made a website. It's no longer up, but this was a project in HTML where my programming friend Szymon Slutiński helped. He wrote the code for it. So you had multiple buttons that would fire different loops from the same track, and you could build your own track. Exactly like adaptive music in games works, and it was years before I had any idea about how adaptive music in games works, and even that I would like to be doing something like that. So I always kind of thought about music in that the structurized idea, that those are pieces that you can put together in and I really like that the listener can do something more with my music than just push play. So that's how Cadillac Loops began, and I did one. I actually released one album under that name, and the album was also, not your standard idea, because why? So that was, I believe, 15 tracks, but you can only squeeze 7 on the CD. So we had to, before ordering it, you would have to pick which one you like, name it, and then I would I would record and send it to you, or you could download it digitally, but your version of the album, it wasn't. I always wanted people's input in my music, and this was way before I created games, and maybe that's why I love and I kind of ditched the idea of becoming a film composer and going on that fork of the road, because in games you see players interact with your music, and I feel like it's more gratifying than just pushing play and kicking back and listening to it.
Nice. Is there something else you want to add to the people to get to know you a little bit better, or have we kind of gotten everything music-wise?
I think we're good on the on the music side.
Nice. So then we will start diving deep into the last Oasis soundtrack, which we are basically here for today. So the first song we're going to listen to today is Woodpunk. And there we fade out Wood Punk, the first song of today. And as I told here in the break while we were listening to the song, I always have a feeling that I get from listening to this song, and I always write them down. And just to kind of repeat this thing, especially, I always say this in Swedish when I have my podcast, because I don't know when I will get new followers and so on for the podcast. And since this is the first one, nobody will understand if I said it in Swedish. So the feeling is basically me. I'm sitting in a dark room. I put in headphones. I put the volume up, and I just dedicate all my senses to just listening to the track. And I will continue to listen to one track on repeat until I'm starting to feel something from the track. And then I basically try to put it down in words. Sometimes it can be kind of weird, and sometimes it could be really good.
How often that word is annoyed?
Don't know. So, when it comes to wood punk specifically here, so I'm not talking about the whole soundtrack. I'm just talking specifically now about this song, Wood Punk. So even though I do not hear the classic Arabian instrument, I still get a deep Arabian vibe from this song. A combination between an Arabian style of music and Mongolian throat singing. The song feels strong, deep, almost to a spiritual plane. The string instruments play a large role for this song, and my favorite part of this song is the more hectic ending, where all the instruments come together with the singing. Mm-hmm. So this is what I felt when I heard this. Nice. This is a pretty powerful song. Gotta give you that.
I'm happy you find it that way. Well, first of all, the wood punk is proof of concept, really. This is the first composition that came to life. But well, let's start from the beginning, because there's an interesting story behind it.
Yes, I'd love to hear this.
First and foremost, I was I was hired by Donkey Crew as a sound designer. And there were plans at the time we started with sounds, and they knew I'm a composer, but there were some uncertainties who will compose music for the project. They were in contact with a composer that did their previous game, and I was just sitting and working on audio. We had in Last Oasis. I urge you to look up the project, because it's really unique and interesting. Those are those huge wooden walking ships. Yeah, walking ships. We call walkers. So I had a ton of fun doing sound design for those. But back to the wood punk. I found myself in the situation, we found ourselves in the situation due to various circumstances, that I had a week to compose music for first trailer, because we were about to put it out. The publisher wanted it, and good thing that I got so into that world working on sound that I started to exploring music that could maybe fit the game, and I composed the bits, small bits, mainly for myself, just to see how to move around that genre, because one thing that has to be said, that in the Middle Eastern music, they don't use the same 12 notes as we do in Western music. There's a microtonality to it. There's a quarter tone sways between them. There's maqams and jeans. Those are the four notes and the smaller combinations between those. So there's a whole other aspect of let's say, music theory to it. And I thankfully explored it a little bit and played around it a little bit. So when it came to the fact that I had a week to make music for the trailer, for the reveal trailer of the project, I already had some ideas and some research done. So the wood punk had to be that kind of way defining tune that if we put in the trailer, then of course you can stray away from it here and there. But this kind of sets that musically we want to go that way. As the throat singing and the Tuvan throat singing and Skargira here in that tune, I was really lucky because I frantically started searching for someone in Poland that does Tuvan throat singing, and I had trouble finding someone. Yeah. Mind you, I had only a week to write it. So I call up my good friend Mateusz Polański, who's a blues singer, and we did some playing together back in the day. And because he's got this, nice, gritty, bluesy voice that I felt will fit just vocalizing. Maybe it wouldn't be Tuvan throat singing, but for vocalization of a strong male voice, this will work. And it turns out that he's a huge fan of throat singing. He's a self-taught throat singer, and because he's he's self-taught, his Tuvan throat singing is not perfect. It's not Mongolian exactly. He has that bluesy flavor to it, so he's really a unique vocalist in that matter.
That's really cool.
So that's how we hooked up. We recorded vocals to it, and the version in the trailer is actually mostly relying on like the strings. The strings are all VST in the trailer, but then on the soundtrack. Those are live violins played by Magdalena Urbańska. We had a little bit more time to then re-record it in the more professional way.
Okay, so Woodpunk is the actual song that is played in the first trailer then?
Yeah. I think I'm not sure.
A version of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's one-to-one that same arrangement, which is on soundtrack, but really, really close. If not the same, really close. Okay.
So when it comes to this game, we haven't gone through exactly what this game is, but just looking by the trailer and just hearing this song, it always reminds me of like a post-apocalyptic Mad Max with combination of immortal engines.
Yeah, it's a bit...
But but these like woodland machines that kind of crawls around on the dunes and everything, they don't feel like they're like cities in immortal engines. They do feel more like vehicles you're traveling around.
Yeah, that's true. That they're more like big ships, like caravalas or something like that.
And it seems to, you have better check on the game than I do, because I've only looked at the trailers and everything, because I wanted to play this, but I haven't really gotten to that part yet. Usually when I'm doing a specific interview for a game or something, I usually play it, but since it's an MMO at that point as well, I need to put more time into the game than like 4 hours.
Yeah, that's, you have to, it's not like, it's not a platformer. It's a vast game.
Exactly. So, would you, Drew, go ahead and do like a short description of the game so everybody knows what we're talking about here?
So Last Oasis, like you said, it's a survival MMO with a twist. We call it a nomadic MMO. And it's the world far in the future, which due to the cataclysmic event stopped rotating around its own axis. But it's still revolving around the sun, and that causes a day-night cycle to last not 24 hours, but 365 days. So half of the Earth is burned by sun, the other half is dead cold, and there's just the thin stripe of habitable Earth that's constantly moving, right? It's going around the sun slowly, and that stripe is moving, and the whole humanity is living that nomadic lifestyle following that stripe. And hence those huge walking machines that the humanity uses to keep moving. Interesting thing, it's not just a story gimmick for the game, it's actually that you have to travel between servers, between maps, between oases, because they die out. You have to move with your clan, with all your belongings, and those walkers are at the heart of the game, and they you can pack, even if you build a base on the ground, you can then pack it and drop it on the walker and move with it. So they are really they kind of a little bit like vehicles, but also a little bit like homes.
No, that's cool. So, when did Donkey Crew get in contact with you for this? Because I guess they only wanted you for sound effects, if I understood you correctly, in the beginning.
Yeah. I started as a sound designer. I've started. When did I start?
From what I could see, it was from
2019.
May
2019, something like that.
Something
or even
clicks in my brain. Somewhere around that time.
No, 2018.
Was it 2018? Okay.
2018, yeah. I believe because I finished. We did that Pure Farming 2018 in March. Mm-hmm. Then I stayed a little bit with that studio, and then I moved in, I think, June or July to Donkey Crew. So that was 2018. So it's a little bit over 2 years now when I first went to the work
2018. I can see that from when we're looking at your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. That's a good reference.
Yeah,
I double check info before putting there, so there's always a good reference.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, okay, so I had a little bit misinformation there as well, because I said 2019.
Oh, yeah.
So 2018. But yeah, you got into the sound design first, and you got to do the first song for the trailer. Yeah. So I guess the trailer did very good, because you continued to do the soundtrack.
Yeah. It's like from that point, like you had different jobs and different bosses and different different teams, but the Donkey Crew really embraced me as an audio lead, and there was that period that I had to prove that I know what I'm doing. But once they were sure, I had all the support in the world, and I could lead the music and the whole audio layer in the direction I wanted to. So I'm very, very thankful for that.
So they were kind of open for every kind of suggestion you basically had, because sometimes I talk to people that work from home and they work remotely to the studio, and sometimes I talk to people that are working in-house. I mean, working in-house kind of has its, I would say it has its small bonuses and perks.
It's not I think it's not a small bonus. It's a really, really big difference. I mean, working from home as a composer, you might get that carte blanche, but that mostly happens if you're already established and you're the one who was approached by a company, not the other way around. And it's just much harder. And being in-house, it has really, really huge perks. I mean, I know it's comfy working from home, but if you can get involved early in the project and be there, you don't have to be there all the time, but at least 2-3 days a week, or even one. It can change the whole dynamic. What I mean by that, you can approach the developers and talk to them. Like in Last Oasis, we have this system called Nomads Chanting. It basically allows player to push buttons on the keypad and sync with their characters. And this is something that I came up with. I had a window in the production process of the game that I know I can squeeze some extra hours to work on that feature. And this is something you won't get to work on if you're just completing tasks that are sent by the producer. Now, if you're an integral part of the team, you can go far, because they don't know what it's possible with the music more than it just plays. Like, I want to play music in the menu, in the exploration, and the different music when it's combat, right? And that's it. But then, if you work closely with them, you have much bigger chance to sway their opinion, and most of the time is also their money and their resources that they have to spend on additional music features, and that it's really much easier if you're on site. Yeah,
and also when it comes to Last Oasis, this is not the first MMO, because the Science Space was also like a virtual MMO world as well. Do you feel there's a lot of differences working on an MMO, making music for that type of game rather than
for
example, a mobile game or just another PC game.
Oh yeah, I mean the biggest challenge for me, and I really embraced it, and I was happy it was this way. It's that in MMO you have a lot of player versus player interactions. It's not that you walk in and there will be enemies here, so it starts playing. Once you clear out 50% of the enemies, the another queue starts playing, and it's all based on the behavior of AI. Obviously, how player interacts it, but all the events are based on AI or the player health or something like that. For example, designing a working music system that will handle the battle and all the skirmishes in Last Oasis was much different experience. You can't say that player is approaching me and you don't know what are his intentions. If you get hit by that player, you don't know if this was intentional or maybe you were both trying to cut the same tree and he kind of just swing and hit you over the head, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of additional aspects that you have to think how the music will behave here. Or we just exchange a couple of blows and I'm running but you're chasing me. What if I'm running and you don't give a damn? What if it escalates? There's just so much more variables that you have to think. It's really, really fun. And from the sound perspective, it's the sounds that we will hear differently. Like, let's say we are fighting. You are getting hit by my character, and this one action will sound different to me, different to you, and different to the person that's standing nearby. Because for all of us, this is a different result. Yeah, I landed a hit, you got hit, you lost health, and for others, this is just two dudes fighting. So there's a lot of more of the kind of putting yourself into other perspective kind of thing.
But how does that kind of react to you as a composer as well and sound designer when you're thinking about that? What's the hardest kind of thing when you're looking at that in that type of perspective, when you have one sound that kind of is different for everybody else?
Well, the hardest thing, the thing you have to switch yourself as fast as possible, and I did it because I had a small audio team with another sound designer, Michal who was working with us, and there was always a case of Michal would make a sound, and it sounds great because he's a really, really good sound designer, currently working for Flying Wild Hog. And I say, now fire the other person and go and listen how it sounds. If you're cutting down the tree, like how it sounds from another perspective. And we have to change this and that. And it's just detaching yourself from the fact that you are this player and you're doing, this is you're doing that. So just changing perspectives. It's probably the hardest thing that you have to constantly have it on your mind. You can't just treat it as a single player game.
Interesting. So is there anything else you want to fill in here at the beginning of Woodpunk? Because I'm interested in going into the next song here.
No, let's go. It will fill itself up.
Let's go. Yeah, so next song we will play this week is Chase the Bard. Bard. This is the shortest song on the whole OST. It's hectic, stressful, but yet really good. The singing part plays more of the part of almost like an ambience here, and I guess it's a violin. Taking here, I just printed down violin because I'm really bad with string instrument, but it sounds like a violin in my world. It takes more of the role of the main instrument in this song.
Yeah, it does. It's there are a couple of things. There's a fula flute. It's an African flute from the woods of Guinea. I want to say. I'm not quite sure. For really interesting history, because Sebastian Vilondek, our woodwind player, he ordered that flute and it came to Poland, but it was traveling under Jembes, so he got splinters, like kind of IKEA set, do it yourself. So he glued it all together. Then on some concert he sat on it again and broke it again. Then repaired it again, and it's that airy sound of it. It's really unique. And it plays a huge role in the first part.
So the flute is the thing we hear in the intro of this song.
Yes, and that's that's something that started, and that Chase the Bard. And the curious thing, because I don't know if your listeners know that, but you asked me to pick three songs to analyze, and you'll pick the other two. And we go in the order, me, you. So Woodpunk was the one I picked because it originated everything. Yes. Then you picked Chase the Bard. And the curious thing that Chase the Bard, apart from using motifs from it in other songs that are actually in the game, it's not in the game. It's another trailer piece. It's a piece for a E3 trailer that we did, and it's kind of more light-hearted than Woodpunk, and it's because that our game at that point we're shaping up to be not so serious. It's not it's not a Fallout. It's not Mad Max. It's not post-apocalyptic, like a deep, depressing, serious world. There's a lot of I would say funny stuff that the physics can be a little bit wonky here and there. The interactions, the contraptions that we built in the game are mostly, and that was our art direction, they are overly complicated in the kind of crazy way, and there's a lot of trolling going on in the game, and you control other players in many ways. So then we decided that we want also music to also portray it, to not be that serious, kind of like Woodpunk was. So it lightens the mood a little bit, and that was the main idea in the Chase the Bard.
It's kind of interesting that you say that, because usually the reason I usually say that the composers always select the songs first and then I pick others afterwards, because when I say that composers pick their songs, they're usually picking their favorites for some reason. And when I go in and I pick pieces that stands out usually, or pieces that I really, really like from the album as well. So I found
that definitely stands out.
Because it feels more hectic when it comes. Usually, when you're listening to the whole OST, it feels like it has more depth to it. Just like what Punk kind of describes and what it has. We have the singing in a lot of songs, in the majority of the songs, and it has this deepness and kind of what would you say, like. It has this bombastic kind of epicness over it. But when it comes to the chase, it feels more, not whimsical, but it feels more hectical and stressful, as I said. But it also kind of has that adrenaline to it in some way. But it never has that depth.
That one of the main reasons is obviously it's mixed a little bit and mastered a little bit different than in the trailer. But still, it's the... Like Woodpunk was, Woodpunk originally also played in the early versions of our main menu, right? Now it's a Nomad's Whisper, the second track from the album, but the Woodpunk was kind of a proof of concept, so it had to be full, had to be big and kind of show. maybe not everything, but a lot that we can do with the music in the game. And while Chase the Bard was written for the linear sequence, for the trailer, for the chase sequence, nonetheless. And it had to coexist with all the sound effects that we did. And this, I love to do it, and I really, in that regard, I like composing music for linear media. But when I get to work with both the sound design layer and if there is with a voiceover layer, because then it's not a full song that exists by itself. I will make it thinner here and there to make space for things that I feel are better emphasized by sound effects or voiceovers. So that's kind of kind of the mindset when you come and start composing something like that.
Because I find this song really interesting, because I mean it's called Chase the Bard, and you can kind of place the bard with the flute maybe in the beginning, but it could also be like the clash of the bards, because it kind of goes with the flute against the violin here, because they're kind of having a battle between each other.
It is a big tactic. It goes it goes all over the place. We really had fun with it.
But when it comes to this song, I guess you had the video footage and then you place a song on top of that, or were there changes throughout the process?
There are changes throughout the process, like it used to be that way in the industry, that you will get a finished montage. Finished edit of the trailer or the movie or whatever, and then you would sit down and compose music for it. Industry evolved in the way that it's no longer the case. So it's a back and forth thing. I would compose something. I mean, I would get the storyboard, then I would compose something, then the editor. And I worked with Jakub Anusewicz, a really, really good editor, and I really enjoyed working with him. And it was, it was really fun, because he would send me, this part and how it feels, and then I would the same day send him back a tweaked version of the number and say, musically it will be nice if it will evolve in this way. Do you think it will evolve this way edit-wise? And so it's an ongoing process. And the interesting thing is you have to squeeze recording live instruments into it, because I mean everything sounds better with live instruments. I mean, we have tremendous virtual instruments at this point, but they still don't come close to the real thing, especially in the music that organic, like Last Oasis. There's a lot of imperfections, a lot of just instruments being instruments and not being the clearest sample you can get. So you have to kind of record before even you have the final version of the song. So there's you have to during the recording session. I would usually record for example, if I'm in that trailer mode, I would record different endings to the phrases, or cut the phrase in half and let it hang there. So then I have few more building blocks when it comes to re-editing what I've already composed.
Okay. So when it comes to the different, you're talking a lot about the more organic kind of sound and everything. How many different instruments do you play today? And how many instruments do you usually take in for certain projects and so on?
Well, that vastly depends on the certain project. On the projects and their needs. I never had an occasion to record, for example, in live orchestra or anything like that. I use a bit of orchestral music in my compositions, but I almost never go full orchestral. If I go for orchestral sounds, they're usually blended with either more electronic sounds or something more ethnic or something else. I find that there are a few masters that do pure orchestral music on the tremendous level, and just being realistic, I'm as we said in the beginning, I don't have any formal musical education, and to master it to their level it would be a crazy long journey to focus on that one. And even then, I feel like there's a lot of composers who are doing the strictly orchestral music, and they just it sound generic. It sound like every other one, and you have a hard time figuring out the character behind it. So I'm not. I like listening to it. I'm not a huge fan of composing with it. I think that we have right now on the kind of broader horizons, and I like to experiment. I like to find. I like to look for things that sound fresh and sound original, and it takes just tremendous amount of skill to make orchestra sound like your name and that this is you. This is John Williams.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and then. It's a question of budget, right? Because musicians also have to have to eat, and you can. I mean, if you have good friends and you're earning shit money on the bad money on the on any given project, and they are also maybe you will talk out, you'll help somehow. But it often happens that and happened to me and happened to really good composers I know, my dear friends, and that you end up paying from your own pocket to the musicians because there's no budget, but you still want your music to sound as good as possible. Fortunately, here this was not the case. We had we didn't have tremendous big budget, but knowing that we had some, it also influenced the way I composed music. I composed music in the way that we had. We mostly were working around the plucked instruments, string plucked instruments, and it was mostly oud and rubab. I will probably talk a little bit more about those instruments later. And saz in one moment. We had strings, and for strings we only recorded violin, baritone violin. We didn't record, there are some there's bass parts here and there, but those are virtual ones. We recorded some percussion, we recorded all the woodwinds live. So there were those are all the instruments that really define the character of the music, really lead it. I mean, if you have the slow passage of cellos in the background or whatever, this is something you can cut from the budget. This can be done with virtual instruments if you don't have enough money or time or whatever to record everything live. But those things that tell your melodies, those things that really tell the story, those things that their timbre and the character will define the soundtrack. Those really, the music gains so much if you will record them live.
Okay. So when it came to the soundtrack here, you started out with wood punk, and you kind of got the style, the thematic for the game there. How long did it take for you to kind of get the correct thematic for it? Because I guess it could kind of be hard always when you just did one song.
Like I said at the beginning, I was really lucky that I just started, fooling around on my own before I was asked to be a composer on the project. So I had a little bit of that done, and I already knew that a little bit what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I don't want to go into microtonality because that's too much, and it will just mean a lot more work and might not be a better result, just because that would be me learning all the new approach to the music. Having said that, I definitely want to at some point of my career dive a little bit more, because I really fell in love with Middle Eastern vibes. Well, I kind of lost track. I went all Middle East. Okay,
I'm just thinking.
I knew I wanted to record oud, which is a very characteristical instrument. It's a plucked instrument, really nice sounding, and I found that guy Mateusz Szemraj, which turned out to be a really awesome instrumentalist, and I invited him to record the music for Woodpunk, the live parts for it, and I think I wrote that music for Oud and I think for Baglama as the second instrument, and he brought along with him also rabab, and it's an Afghan instrument. It's an Afghan instrument which is totally magical. Like, we recorded that, and because of our short notice, we recorded that in Warsaw in the Foley studio, not musical studio, but Foley studio. And Foley studio, for those who don't know, is a studio where you record all the sound effects. So it's really dampened in terms of sound. It's not, that doesn't have any nice reverb, which usually a little bit of room you can hear in the recording studios, right? In the Foley studio, no, it's all deaf. It's a really weird thing that your voice just disappears. So you can have dry samples of everything. So we recorded Mateusz there, and Rubab. It has a 3 strings that you play normally like a guitar, but then it has a bunch of other strings that you just tune into whatever a scale you're playing, and they resonate with the notes you play. And it's all hollow inside, along with the neck. And in that studio, it sounded like on the concert stage, out of the box. Like, it has the beautiful natural reverb to it. It's a bit of a sad story. We recorded Rubab, which was probably around 100 years old. But it's really hard to get your hands on those old instruments. Because in Afghanistan, when Talibs were ruling there, they were destroying everything connected to music, whether it's CDs or music scores or instruments, and very few of those instruments survived. Mateusz was lucky enough that he travels the world, and he kind of he got his hands on it. But that was a magical instrument.
Cool.
So I allowed my instrumentalists also during that way to bring different instruments to show me how they sound, because they knew much more at that point than me about those instruments, and that also helped me to evolve the music. Because I had the Rubab in the virtual instruments, but it sounded nowhere near as good as the real deal.
That's really, really cool. I really like when this kind of thing pops in, pops open, especially having the difference between them, even though a virtual one could be a live one, but since it's going to be more, let's say, adaptive to different things, they can kind of fall in quality because they have that adaptiveness. And just having the real deal play live and playing all these adaptive notes, then you will have a much clearer kind of aspect of the music and the notes themselves from the instrument. So that's really, really nice. I like it. So when you played around with everything, did you get a good glimpse? Did you have any reference material that you wanted to strive for?
I did. Well, that's how I usually start work on any given project, that I do a reference list of tracks. If there's someone who, if not, I'm not the audio director, and there's someone who has a vision already, that's the first thing I ask for also. Give me on Spotify, YouTube, whatever you feel, a playlist, a long playlist of songs that you feel will fit the game. And then on top of it, please explain for each song what exactly in this one you find inspiring or worth checking out further, right? Whether it's the rhythms, whether it's the certain instrument, whether it's the melody, because those might be, I like that song, but why? And you say, if you don't know why, you as a composer might emulate the melodies there, and it turns out that the melodies was not there, it was the instruments or the rhythms, or or maybe it was all. I had my own my own playlist that I referenced, and it obviously grew over time. It's not like that I do research, I close it. It's actually, I think it kept growing even after I finished. I put out those OST. I still like to add songs to it if I find something that that fits the mood.
Yeah, and since it's an MMO, I guess you're still creating musical content as well for it.
Like I said, I at this moment I'm not.
You took a break now.
Working with Donkey Crew. I'm not sure how it will be in the future. We're kind of in a transition period.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility that a little bit more of my work will find its way there, but at that point, we haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah. It's for the future to decide.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I feel like we should listen to a new song here.
Yep, let's do it.
It's time for Dune Like No Other. Had Dune Like No Other. This is a more calmer song, like traveling music, where you can just enjoy the exploration of a foreign land. The song does have a combination of both throat singing and wailing, which feels great in combination, like balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad you said it, because this is a traveling theme. And this, along with the next one, the Sounding Gears that I see on the list that will be next, both of those songs are traveling songs, but not in the sense that they are being played while you're exploring world in the game. I said before that in Last Oasis you have to move between the maps and the servers, right? To stay alive. So those songs kick in when you approach the border of the server, and the possibility of travel opens to you and you're choosing your next destination. So it's actually for the world traveling, I would say. So it's it's a little bit more it has a more meat to it, I would say, than your usual just ambient track for exploration in the world. Those don't have vocals or such strong melodies as those one.
Because I think the throat singing and the wailing is the one that really comes through here. The music kind of feels more like the ambience kind of touch to it. So what was the thought of you adding the wailing and the throat singing for this one?
Okay, so I really believe that music has this power to either help you sink deep into the world and feel that you're deeply within it, or take you out from it. And taking you out from it is not necessarily bad thing if done correctly. One of the major examples in the recent gaming which does it very well would be Red Dead Redemption, and that last sequence that you have really little control over Arthur galloping on his horse. But then the music comes with the vocals, and it comes in the mix to the front, and you're not longer deeply immersed in the game. You take a step back to process what is happening, not as a player, not as a character in game, but as a player.
Yeah.
And this goes to the similar tune. Here, that music signals that you've at the edge of the map, that your problems as a character in game will currently fade back until you'll reach another destination. So this is the moment where things that jump in front, like the To Van Throw singing and the Overton singing that's here, kinda like snaps you a little back to reality, I would say. This is the moment if you want to take a break. Now it's a good time to go to the bathroom, or whatever. So this is a thought behind those tunes.
Okay, because I kind of felt it when I was just listening to it. I just felt that you're traveling across the land. You're all alone, maybe, but the singing kind of becomes your companions. Like, something is happening. You're not just staring into the horizon and just traveling quietly. You're actually enjoying this experience, traveling on the sands and going on.
Yeah, that's the like. It goes deeper because that system I've talked a little bit about, the ability to sing.
We can go deeper into that one now.
It's the same voice that we have in those numbers. So the kind of the thought behind that feature was that you're driving across the desert, because there are a lot of deserted parts that you have to just travel through with your walker. And while you're on that ship, on that walker, we have one person that's driving, the other person that's maybe crafting something, but the rest of the clan is kind of, waiting till we get there. So, that's a nice thing to give them, to be able to sing, to chant, thought about in the future, maybe adding some more instruments. I hope it will happen for the game. Because, it's just a really nice thing to interact. And those ready songs on an album kind of emulate that you are and that's was in the Bedouin culture or all the nomadic cultures, that singing is a big part of a daily life.
Okay. No, guys, I really like this part, and I know you explained this, and I know. I saw the trailer you actually have for this system that you have on YouTube, and it's super interesting because you're basically just pressing a hotkey, and if I remember correctly, there's 3 hotkeys for different types of singings, but then you can actually take different notes by using your keypad, if I remember correctly.
Yes, numpad.
The numpad, basically, you're taking one type of throat singing, and then you can change the notes by using the numpad. And it's really, really amazing how lenient it kind of feels. You don't always just break because you release the key. You're kind of ending the throat singing part as well.
The samples are programmed in that way that if you push the key, you sing one tone, and then you release. It plays the ending of the tone. It doesn't do the fade out. It doesn't break instantly. It plays a natural sample, so it sounds like you stop singing. Yeah,
and I really like that part because it feels so dynamic when it comes to that part. And just thinking about this type of system, the only thing I kind of see the hardship coming in is seeing a whole clan with all the pings and everything going on, all the delays.
That's why that system and the structure and how the samples are recorded are thought to be more of a long drone chanting than playing a quick melody. For example, if you try to play quick melody and tap too many keys within the small time size, character, instead of doing will do and then you can sing again. So if you want to mash fingers, you mash not fingers but the keys. You can't really do it. And it was all thought to work nicely for the long notes, long drony chants. Maybe one person singing a little bit faster on top of it. But yeah, with all the pings and all the synchronization, and you either have pre-recorded, pre-synchronized phrases that you just fire along, kind of like in Sea of Thieves, that you start, one person starts playing the shanty, right, and the other players can go and choose to play along with it, but it doesn't give you control over it, right? It just you click and you play along. So there's a lot of ways that you can build on it, that you can expand that system. That's like a basic bare version of something that could happen, but it still works really well. Like, you can sing all the notes in Western scale. Some of those you have because other keys on the keyboard, that was U and N, if I remember correctly, bring your voice up a semitone or down a semitone, so we can do a fluent slide and gliss between those. So yeah, it worked really, really nice.
Yeah, it's really interesting just to see other people utilize the system and do the like clan chantings.
I was so happy when the game launched and I heard the stories like that the bigger clan called the smaller one. They circled around them and they said, okay, if you want to keep your walkers and your stuff, now sing for us, entertain us. And they were, it found its way to the heart of the game, and and it was just great.
Through blackmailing, keeping people hostage.
Really cool.
It's really, really amazing how just a small system like that. I mean, it's not a small system. It's a pretty interesting dance system, but how a system kind of interacts together with the game in some unique way.
That's great about games and about music for games. Like, I really love. Sorry for going away, but I really love that example that Borislav Slavov, one of my favorite composers, did for Divinity Original Sin 2. That he gave players a choice to pick their leading instrument. That's something that you cannot do in other media, and I think this is kind of the way that we have to dig and try to find ways how music in games can not only sound better and be better emotional wise, but also how we can invite players deeper into the world and not just leave music in the background.
But when you started to develop this type of system, I guess you didn't expect people to use it to take hostages and entertain us.
That's why I was so happy, because it outgrew my expectations. I was I didn't know, I never did anything like it, and I haven't heard singing a module like that in any game. I did some research before, and I found different things like the Sea of Thieves system and a couple of others. There was nothing quite like it, and I didn't know how people would react to it, and I was just really, really surprised positively by the different stories and reactions, and clans standing before the fight and both sides chanting, and it's really cool.
So they're using like a war cry as well.
Yeah. That's especially that throat singing, that Kargira, the deep one. It's a really good war cry.
Are clans utilizing this system as well to just have like theme songs and songs they utilize and sing to
yeah.
themselves.
I really hope that that Last Oasis really kicks off, because we had a really successful / terrible launch. Successful because we had a lot of players pouring in. Terrible because our servers did not survive that pouring. We had to stop the game for about a week or so. But all in all, it was really good. A lot of players played it, and I know the team is doing everything to make it as good a game as possible, and I really believed in them, and I really hope that the world of Last Oasis will blossom at some point, because there's so much potential, and there's certainly a lot of potential to play around more with those musical and sound systems there.
So when it comes to this type of advanced system, what was the hardship with them?
We're talking about the
chanting system. Did you have any
system,
major
right?
problems?
Or what? Or which one?
The chanting system, yeah.
Well, the first thing was to figure out how to make it sound natural, and this was kind of a change for me, because I have friends who create their own musical libraries, like virtual instruments.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much a virtual instrument I created, and I haven't done it before, so there was that knowledge gap that I had to learn how to do it, how to properly execute it, how to record those samples, then how to cut them, then how to implement them for the first implementation, and in the game actually later, but the first and the thing that we scrapped. My wife was recording samples because she's a great vocalist herself, and so I had that freedom that we record that, no, that doesn't work, so record another. I didn't had to book a studio and book vocalists. I just grabbed my wife, bring her into my my home recording studio, and we'll move from there. So that was a hard part, and then there was a lot of tweaking and changing with responsiveness to keys, and that how fast of a melodies we want allow players to sing and whatnot, and how transitions should sound. Should they always end the note and then begin the other? Should they crossfade? Should they should we record a gliss stingers, short cues for those? So there's all those things were considered and tried out.
And I'm pretty sure in this game you can choose either you want to be a male or female character.
Yes, that's
and
correct.
I guess in this chanting system you also have female throat singing as well, because I'm pretty sure you don't have manly throat singing voices on the girls there.
Yeah, no, I don't have female throat singing. There are females. I don't know if in Poland there's any, but there are who can do Kargira. I heard it, and that was that was a plan going forward, that at some point we'll give players an opportunity to, when creating their own character, to pick from few male voices and few female voices. And I didn't want them to be exactly the same articulation. So for example, if our female doesn't have that the throat singing, maybe the other will have some weird overtone singing or something like that. Maybe the other male won't have Kargira, but will have another type of throat singing. I leaned in that, so to make them not just that's a different singer, so it sounds a little bit different. I was leaning in a way to make it a little bit more variety of
give the players more tools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can't have all. It all depends on which voice you'll choose.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. No, I really like the system, because it's really interesting. It feels very unique. From my part, I haven't seen this type of thing being utilized more than the Sea of Thieves, for example. I mean, there might be like one or two games I know, but I've forgotten that you could. But it really feels fresh and really interesting, and that's one thing that really drives me towards why I want to play Last Oasis, because I'm really interested in this chanting system.
Yeah, it's. I also heard it numerous times from our marketing department. This is like they had a lot of people writing that. Okay, I was considering buying, but this sold me. So this is, this is a small gimmick, really, in terms of how big the game is and how many features it has. But it does sell the game to some extent, and this is something that I've heard over and over, and I deeply disagree with it. I've heard people saying that, okay, music won't sell my game. I mean, it's a nice thing to have. It's a nice thing to have beautiful music in the game because maybe the final mark on Steam will be a little bit higher or something like that. Or will be noticed by someone. But it doesn't really sell the game. And while I disagree with it, I can see the point, but where I really disagree with it, and it shows, is those interactive systems that you can treat music and audio not only as something that plays in the background, but you can actually move forward with the musical feature. Then when you show properly with your marketing tools, suddenly becomes a really good game seller. And it's just a matter of seeing an opportunity where in your game you can put such a system that will really become a good selling point. Yeah,
I highly agree with you. I mean, just looking at, for example, a rhythm game that is not a rhythm game like Beat Saber or anything. Take Beat Buddy, for example. I mean, without all the music adding to the mechanics and everything, that game would not be good at all.
Oh yeah, but yeah, this is kind of obvious example because you have rhythm games or the music-based games, and this. This requires music, and music is a selling
sells
point.
The game.
But then you have a point and click, right? Adventure, and you can have a beautiful music in the background, but then you can introduce a puzzle that actually requires you to listen and play something back, or play or build your instrument, or any kind of crazy stuff that comes into your head, and suddenly even the quality of music didn't go up. You've got a great selling point for your game. And this is something I feel really overlooked by developers when hiring composers or audio professionals, and by composers and audio professionals for not pushing it, that we can really create often small but out of the box things that will tremendously help the game.
Yeah. I highly agree. But yeah, I think it's time for the next song now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, the other traveling song, Sand in Gears. Sand in Gears. This song is one of my favorite songs of the OST. It starts out calm, but steps up over time, delivering. Keeps an attitude with its wailing that comes back strong, spreading like sunlight in an open valley.
Ooh.
I can almost feel the sun on my face, while the wind kinda chills the skin during my travels.
Nah.
So it's kind of fun because I did not know that this was traveling music before.
Words. This is a traveling music, and this is the first one written, I believe, and this has that steady rhythm, that steady pace to it, and it. Like I've spent a lot of my time in the mountains. I'm a climber in my free time, and especially on long routes, you pace yourself. You have that steady track when you clear your mind and just push forward on your own pace. And this music does something similar, that it gets you into that rhythm, pushing forward with not going too fast, not going too slow, at your own pace, and feeling more and more confident with it. I feel the same as you. It's one of my favorite creations for that OST. I don't know what else can I say. It's
when it comes to the whole OST here. I mean, if this was the first like traveling music, I guess this was created quite early in the whole OST for the game.
Yeah,
because traveling is a big part of the game.
It was created. Sorry.
Just the traveling part feels like a big part of the game. So,
yeah, that's that was the idea from the very beginning, that we are going to travel between oases, and so that was like I did a board for what first should I compose. So I had the mini music, the something for exploration, something for battle, and something for traveling. So that was the from the very early beginning the point that I knew that we have to emphasize in the game, because it plays a vital role in it. I'm kind of stuck on your beautiful words about that. But that's a curious thing, because I remember, and it pushed me to that music, to two things, to this music and to creating an additional wind layer. And it was actually, I remember that was the first playthrough of a closed beta, and we had like that first playthrough, 50 people that just friends who play MMO, and we invited them to play the game. And I met first stranger online, and I jump on his walker because he already built a walker, because they started earlier than we got to the studio as employees. And I stand on the very top of the spear, like the very front of the walker, and it's riding, and suddenly faster than anything I experienced before in the game. And I felt, I didn't feel a wind on my face, but this was really close to it, and I felt, sound-wise, if you go above certain speed, there has to be wind blowing in your ears, because it's open, it's not closed, it's mostly decks and mostly open spaces, up to the really, only the biggest walkers are closed. So I did that, and
kind of feels like ships on spider legs.
And then with the music, that kind of feel of freedom, because you're running around, and suddenly jumping on a walker, and the being ability to finally traverse that, because there are quite big maps in Last Oasis, to finally traverse that land in a with a sensible speed. It gives you that sense of freedom and calmness. And the other thing, like, there's what was really inspiring about that world, that the usual journey we find in the movies, books, stories, whatever, are from point A to point B, right? And here in Last Oasis, it's an everlasting journey. There's no such thing as reaching the destination, or you just keep moving, and that really found its way to the music. There's a lot of drones, a lot of steady rhythms, a lot of things that keep you moving forward. One thing, and I'll just briefly talk about it. We won't listen to this song, but there's the song called 7 Pieces of the Moon, and it's written in another metrum. Most songs are in for force, the usual metronome we hear in the music. This is in 7/4, so it goes 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3. So that second part doesn't go up to 4. It skips a step, so it kind of rushes you forward. And this is a song for if you travel long enough on the walker on the map, so it kind of speeds, it gives you, that inclination to go faster, go forward, keep moving. So there's a lot of that traveling inspirations and movement inspirations just pouring into the music under different things.
Because usually a thing that I usually talk about, I know we've been touching this when we were listening to a song before, but it's always about naming the music for an OST. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you get the names from another person at the studio, for example. But in your case, it sounded like you were doing all the names yourself. So when it comes to this, when you're talking about when you're on the walker, an amount of time, you will start using this. Then it's basically sand in gears, because you're traveling the sands with the walker. So how does it come to you naming the songs? Do you feel that's an easy process, or do you find hardships with it, naming songs?
We've talked a bit about it off the record, and I repeat myself here. It's for me, it's funny thing, because once I start writing the process, and I for the first time want to save the project because I feel that I got something. I can't push myself to save it under, Last Oasis OST track 04, right? I need to have a name. And that can freeze me for good half an hour or so sometimes, because I won't move forward until I find a suitable name for the track. And it's just the way I work. I know it's not the most clever way to go about it.
Would you say it's a bad habit?
Yeah, bad habits, but I really like that. I really like to have, if I'm not... sometimes I even have a title before I start writing, because I know that this is gonna be for... I'm not sure how was Sound in Gears, I don't remember it, but this is one of those titles that might have been there before I even lay a note. And I wanted to get the traveling through desert, and to have those wooden gears. Sound in Gears, that will be it. There are some cases that the name will change afterwards, but not too much. I think Woodpunk changed.
Okay.
I can't for the love of remember what it was earlier, but I'm pretty sure. That was something. It was, I think, called Rocca or something like that. I created my own kind of language and thought that maybe it would be good to move forward with it. Just because of you heard the singing in the Woodpunk, and those are, kind of sounds like a language, but it's not. It's made by me and just sung by a vocalist, and just apart from it was a title, and then I decided to ditch that idea and turn into Western sounding titles for the songs.
Yeah. So when it comes to, we talked a little bit now about giving song the names and so on, but when it comes to the songs and you're basically moving forward with OST, usually you want to make better and better songs, but you kind of want to keep the red thread, the thematic of the OST as well. Did you feel that it was hard to kind of keep the thematic of the OST during the process of making it?
One thing you do, and it really helps, is you build a template at the beginning of the project. Of course, the template might change over time, but you try to find the instruments and sounds that you want. You want to build a template around it, and then you'll expand it by an instrument here or there, or a different ambience here, or something else. But the core you have is intact. Second thing, you will bring same instrumentalists, so you'll get the same kind of feel, and instrumentalists bring a lot to the music. I really like them also to leave them especially for the less rhythmic tracks. I would turn off the click for them, and give them just the themes I played, but they don't play it note to note. They let themselves flow through it. So we have the same instrumentalists that keeps consistency. Obviously, record them in the same studio, so we have the technicality, same sound. So it's not really that hard to stick. And like there are underlying rules that you impose on yourself when composing. Like for example, here in Last Oasis, due to the fact that it's rather crude post-apocalyptic environment and it's desertish and it has this Middle Eastern feel. In Middle Eastern, you don't have those chords progression like in Western music, in jazz or whatever. You don't build harmonies that complex. It's usually a drone or two and the melody over and the rhythm. And this is an underlying a rule for me when composing, so I don't go crazy on the chord progression, and so I keep harmonies very simple or even non-existent for a lot of this music. On the Flotillians is one of the exceptions to the rule, just because it was for the main city, the Flotilla, and it's a little bit more sophisticated, right? So it's a little bit more harmonies.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that you can do consciously to help you to not. So you don't think, oh, I don't want to go too far, so it will sound bad. You just had a set of rules, and you naturally move within those, and the ending product will fit the rest of the soundtrack. You don't have to worry about it.
I kind of felt interested in this song as well, because while I was listening to it, for some reason I did not pay too much attention to the throat singing, because it's kind of on the down low in this song. So the first time I actually started writing my feeling for this song, I actually just wrote down in the beginning, it's like, oh, this is like the first song in the whole OST where we don't hear throat singing. And then I just came to the end of the song and was like, scratch that.
Scratch that. No, that's actually, there's not. Wait, there's. Let me try to count. There's Woodpound, Dune, Day, Chase the Bard. So that's 3. That would be, I think, 4 songs. In the OST have throat singing. The rest doesn't.
Yeah.
It's.
Because it's really interesting, because when it comes to the throat singing, for some reason it really sticks to your mind.
Because, but it's because it's not really popular in our culture. We don't hear it. It's like, oh, what's that crazy sound he's made? And actually it's not even that hard, especially Kargira. You can teach yourself it if you want. Like even I learned it a little bit just listening and working with those samples. But yeah, you don't hear it in the mainstream. You don't hear it in the whatever.
Yeah.
So it's always. That's
so when I listened to the OST, just going through everything when I was just scouting for songs, the ones I picked were the ones that kind of stood out to me. But I kind of felt like the whole OST was always like wailing and using the throat singing. But now that you mention it, it's like you kind of remind myself.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful thing about it that you just use it like out of 18 tracks, there's only 4 with throat singing, but it sticks. It gives the character to the whole thing, and even if there isn't throat singing in that one particular tune, you still feel like it belongs. It's all with it, especially if you listen to the whole OST as a whole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it just comes back sometime to kind of remind you again.
Exactly.
But it kind of sticks to you all the time. It's like, why is every song throat singing? I like it, but what the hell? And then it's just 4.
Yeah. The
so that's
whole
really,
OST,
really
by
great.
the way, is like the order is kind of like an order that the player's story would progress. It's a little bit like that. So it's not just thrown in alphabetical or whatever. So there is a thought behind what plays when.
And that's really nice, because always when you're talking to composers, at points I can do it. I usually ask in what their thought was when they actually started placing the songs into the CD or OST. And it's always interesting because if you look at old LPs, for example, you usually have the best songs on the first track and the fourth track, because that's usually the furthest out or almost at the center. So it's easy to find. So it's really interesting. But when it came to this soundtrack, you had the red thread of how the player would experience it while playing the game. But since it's an open world, I would say it's kind of dynamic, but this would be the most generic way or path a player would take then.
This is just the path that I imagined. It could be a bit different, but it tells a story of a certain path. Obviously, it can be shuffled one way or another, but yeah.
Nice. And with that said, I think it's time for the last song of the week.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Before the Reckoning. The last song of the week, and the name and title for that track was Before the Reckoning. So, in this track, the feeling I wrote down here, great riff on the guitar, but what enchants me with this song is the violin again. Its tunes are mesmerizing, and I can really like how it almost dances between the other instruments, stealing my focus and isolating it. With just this song, I find myself as a big market, wandering around and browsing the goods.
You are really, really good at this, I have to say. I really like your interpretations. I mean, I will putting the next album, I'll ask you to write down a few words. Really, it's really good.
So, don't tell me this is marketing
really,
music now.
I'm in awe. Well, back to the track. So I picked it as the last track because this is like the incarnation of woodpunk in the game. The riffs that you heard on the played on the oud are actually first introduced in woodpunk in the smaller form. Those are melodies, not literally one to one, but this is something that I thought, I wrote that much music. Maybe I'll try to take something that I wrote a year ago and see can I give it a different spin. And that's how Before the Reckoning came to life. So it started like that, but then the thought that you read so well is that this is a conversation between between the nomads traveling together. And a lot of times it's like that. I, as an instrumentalist, played on jam sessions as whatsoever, and a lot revolves around the dialogue. That you play something, other person plays something, and you just kind of get a feel for each other, and then you play the moments at the same time. Then you give each other space, and this was, and I played it, and this is a fun thing I like to do when composing. That I kind of change personalities. That I put myself in the position of that right now I'm composing a part of an oud, of that strumming guitar-like instrument.
Yeah.
So I'm an oudist, right? I'm an oudist, I'm that guy, and I play it. And then, I just think about my instrument. And then as I play as a violinist, I feel like a different person. I try to find, what do I like? Like, oudists like the repeating rhythm and the groove, and the violinist is more lyrical, romantic orientated, and he's more
almost like a free spirit.
So I kind of try to emulate the personality of in that. Not always, but Before the Reckoning was one of those moments that I really wanted to become one of the three different people that actually later three different people would record it. And try to add myself to the existing song, and that's why that interesting dialogue came up to life here.
Okay, because I really like the melody of the violin here. No, I really like it. That's the one that really got me mesmerized. I can almost feel like when I was just closing my eyes and taking in all the music, I could almost feel my shoulders just bobbing back and forth together with the rhythm. So I was really into the music for this one.
Yeah, and if you listen to the wood punk after that, because it has that middle quiet part and then it goes back, it's the same riff that plays there. It's not exactly the same, but that's the same kind of. So it's like an alternative version of it. It's taken from wood punk and then built around the new, new feeling, new song. It's kind of like that you have, the thought was that you as nomads, as a culture, has one, classic song, and then instead of playing it, you just take a part of it and improvise around it as you are on the deck of your walker traveling and just playing around with it. So this was the mindset that you take from the all-time classic and try to give it a new spin.
That's really, really nice. No, but just ending the podcast with this one, I know I said I have Sands and Gears as my favorite. I mean, this one is a really good favorite of mine as well, and it's great that you have it also in the end of the OST. I mean, I don't remember right now if it was exactly the last one or if it.
It's almost the last one. The last one is those the Flotillians, but it's almost at the end.
Yeah, so it's almost at the end. So it will kind of be stuck in your mind going through this OST from start to finish. Yeah. This will be a great ending. So people most likely will remember, hopefully, the album and coming back to it and to re-listen to it.
I've been so lucky and I've been overwhelmed. I've heard so many positive words about that album, and starting working on it, I've never composed the music with the Middle Eastern flavor in it, and at times I was hesitant if I'm up to the task, and the way it turned out and the way I've heard so many good words about it. Just great.
So when it came to the whole OST, were there songs in the OST that you found was really hard to do?
Apart from Woodpunk, which was the first, and you obviously, you're up against the wall because you haven't written anything yet. Well, the songs like Dust, for example, which is the battle theme. The battle themes were hard to do because they have to be multi-layered and they have to cover everything from a small skirmish with a low-level enemy that you'll kill easily to the battle of several walkers. So they have to be able to expand in the way and feel serious enough, and then have that element of trollishness, which is in Last Oasis. So they were really a tall challenge. They usually they have like 20 or so layers, and those are not only layers that add to each other, but the second layer kicks in, so the oud would change what it's playing, and not even always not necessarily change the melody, but add a little bit more notes to the melody and play it with more energy, stuff like that. So in honesty, they are obviously around 3-minute tracks that are arranged into one linear experience, but designing and putting them in the game, it was rather a tall task.
Okay. Were there any song in the OST that kind of went through a lot of change, for example?
I would say, the first one, the Woodpunk, was kind of, stitching, trying this and that, and being changed over and over. But apart from that, it goes rather smooth. I've got this tendency to compose, and if after an hour or two working, I'll take usually a short break. I'll come back, and if what I've done up to this point is not talking to me, I will scrap it. If I'm not sure, I will develop it a little bit more and wait until next day, because it happens that what I didn't really like this day turns out to be great tomorrow and gives me idea how to push it forward. But once I set myself, and this is a track I want to do, especially in a project like this, then I'm audio director, so I'm kind of fulfilling what audio director wanted. In other projects where the audio director is another person, there might be a little bit more revisits. I kind of do revisits as I compose during the process, so it might be a little bit longer, but it's usually not the case that I will get back after a week and redo the whole song, because
Okay. Nice. Now I kind of feel that I don't have that many more questions at all. I felt like all my questions have been answered during the time of this podcast. But is there something else you want to add concerning the album of Last Oasis here? I
mean, this has been a thorough interview, and I think we've talked about pretty much everything, from the inspirations to the how I approached music, what the instruments and all that stuff. I'm just really lucky that it came to life and I had an opportunity to work from it, and I'm very happy that you invited me to talk about it. And I haven't talked about it
of course.
In a while now. And it really feels nice to revisit it, because there's so many nice memories while creating it.
Yeah, that's great. Looking at it in almost like retrospect.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
So you will have like another interview 1 or 2 years from now talking about this game again, maybe, because it kind of got a good shoot off with a new expansion or something.
I sincerely hope so. I sincerely hope that the game ends up in success it deserves to be, and it all goes well. And I'm honestly really proud what we were able to accomplish, and it's not just my work. There's, besides the instrument, the great instrumentalist that I mentioned, there's also work of Kamil Biedrzycki, who's mixed and mastered the album. You can hear on Spotify and other platforms, and he did a tremendous job of bringing the sound, making it sound even better. So that there's this effort of many people behind it, not just me.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing to point out as well. Not all composers are doing this by themselves. I mean, you can hear a lot of different composers, and we praise them to the sky, but they're not alone. I mean, John Williams. I mean, he couldn't do all that by himself.
Yeah.
I mean, putting notes on paper. I mean, everybody can do that.
That's something I think is very important. That that sharing the spotlight, and I learned it later in my career that the more people I invite on the project, the more like. I could have taken money because I'm a capable mix and mastering engineer myself, right? But I'm not as good as Camille or another professional that does only, that this is whole focus, and he does that for a living, he or she. So, the more you share, the more you try to bring other people on board, just good things happen. It's a good thing to try to get out of the bubble that, I have to do everything myself, because otherwise it's not gonna be my music. That's not true.
Yeah. Oh, I see. But yeah, I think that is it for the last Oasis OST then. So we're closing that bag for now, and we're focusing a little bit more on you again. I know we talked about earlier that you're stepping a little bit back from Donkey Crew, and you're taking a little bit break right now. But is there anything you're kind of working on your free time now that you want to talk about, music-wise? Are you working on anything freelancing
there's a couple
or
of projects I'm working
have anything planned?
Those are under NDA, so I can't really talk that much about what's going to happen. But I'm definitely staying active. At the same time, I'm taking that breather that I so much needed after years of just running ahead in the industry,
Head first.
All this crazy time. I have one little project brewing aside from game dev industry with a tremendous vocalist, Karolina Skrzyńska, and we'll see. We'll see where that leads us. But I'm very excited how it might turn out. I actually invited her, and that's how we got to know each other. I invited her to work on the one demo that we did for the game dev, and we kind of started from there, and we'll see.
Nice. Now that sounds interesting, really interesting. It's going to be nice to see what you come up with in the future as well. These NDA projects, of course. So it's going to be really interesting. So for people who might be interested more in you, how can I get in touch with you or find your work?
Or really, whatever. I'm on pretty much all the social media. I try to be active there. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn if you're a game dev professional. And I'm also a co-founder of Warsaw Game Audio Collective. I organized game roundtables when there are events, game dev events in Poland, and I'm always open. If you, dear listener, are a composer or a sound designer or audio professional that would try to kickstart his career, or you're not sure if the game dev career is for you. I'm more than happy to help. I found along my way a lot of people who answered my questions, who helped me, and really warm-hearted. So I'm open to do the same. If you're a game developer and you're not sure if you should hire a composer or not, and also you can talk to me and I'll tell you a bit how it looks from our perspective. If there's if there's anything, if you feel interested listening to either music or any stories I've told and you would like to learn more, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah. And that's nice. It's always nice to see someone else pass it forward. I mean, somebody helped them, you pass it forward to the next person. It's always nice to see.
Meeting right people, but at the same time, I know that right now I have a knowledge that if I would have someone I could ask 5 years ago that would make a lot of things much faster for me. So,
yeah. Oh, that's nice. So yeah, I think that is it for today. I will do my normal speech, and this is kind of interesting because my normal speech, I have it in Swedish, so this will be actually the first time I'll be doing this in English. So, and I haven't translated the text here because I always have a text so I don't go off script on these ones. So this was historical for the podcast history because this podcast, Äntligen Spelmusik, is always, before at least, in Swedish. So I hope for more composers and people that speak English to show some interest in this, because if there are more interest, I will actually start doing this in English as well. Right now I have the biggest crowd in Sweden, thus I am doing the podcast in Swedish. So for Swedish people listening, this is more pointing towards you, but for English speaking and understanding people, hopefully there will be more content for you in the future. But other episodes of Äntligen Spelmusik, you can find that on videospelsklubben.se. You can find them on Spotify or in your nearest podcast app. Be sure to follow and comment on social media such as Facebook or Instagram. There you can search for Äntligen Spelmusik. I will most definitely make a note and link out of this because not everybody can do the thing that we in Sweden have.
Please do.
And yeah, do you want to hear your name through the podcast? Well, make sure to wish a song for the upcoming episodes that I do. You can then just walk into any of the social media I have or not Äntligen Spelmusik, but Videospelsklubben's own Discord and just comment it to me. Or you can support Äntligen Spelmusik and future composers through our Patreon site. And the current backers I have on Patreon is Christian Cederqvist, Michal Sjöberg, and Andreas Nilsson. Thank you so much for being a support to this podcast and future composers. And links to where you can find the soundtrack that Michal has worked on and where you can support him, you will find that in the videospelsklubben.se's links. And the thematic for the next episode, right now I'm basically going soundtrack and then I'm going for a composer. So we did a soundtrack today with Michal, and next time we will be doing a composer, and this time we will be talking about Winifred Phillips. So we'll be talking about a girl composer, and that's awesome. I'm super excited because I'm not entirely sure all the different songs and soundtracks that she has been working on. Are you sure you know any soundtracks you've been working on? Do you have any clue of the soundtracks Winifred Phillips has worked on?
Yeah, she worked on the Assassin's Creed, right? The first. I think she, if I'm not mistaken, she worked on the God of War, but not the last one, but the God of Wars before. What else?
And she worked on Little Big Planet.
And a little bit. I knew that there was something, a little bit more.
Yeah, but I've seen her name coming up here and there, and I'm super interested to start looking into. I've actually seen on Gamasutra she had some couple of articles focusing on game music. So I'm super excited to dive into what she has to say and what type of composer she seems to be. So she seems super amazing, and it's going to be super awesome to just go in and research on her works and listen to the music that she's been working on. Oh yeah.
So and she's active on the all composers groups or forums. So
she seems very active.
Yeah, she's been a huge help for there's few experienced composers, long-time composers that willingly share among others. Winifred is one of those.
Yeah. So it's gonna be amazing for the next episode. Most likely it will be in Swedish, but I don't know. Maybe this episode will get a huge following, and then I will have to be forced to do everything in English. But that I would not complain to that though.
Yeah. Well, if not now, surely in the future will force you to go English, because this is really good, and I definitely would love to hear more of this in a language I can understand.
Yeah, exactly. But Michal, thank you so much for joining me on this episode and being part of my podcast history.
Thank you. It's been nothing but pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
And with that said, everybody, do take care, and I will hear and see you all next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.